In this video, I'll give you my full card predictions for UFC 299. Let's make some money this week. At the top of the card, bantamweight gold is on the line and a hairdresser's dream of a main event between Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera. This is a rematch nearly 4 years in the making. In their last fight, Chito landed leg kicks early, and of course one of them found the perennial nerve that shut down O'Malley's leg, and it led to the finish. That was Sean O'Malley's only loss in the UFC, his only loss in his career. Now let's take a look at what his career has been like since then. The Sugar Show has been on the road 6 times since then, and he finished 3 straight immediately after. So that's Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, and Raulian Paiva. He followed that up with a fight that ended in a no contest against Pedro Munhoz due to an eye poke, but then in the next fight he won a fight that he lost to Petr Yan. He had big moments in that fight, but Yan answered back nearly every time, and that's widely considered one of the biggest robberies in the last couple of years. Yan had success striking, he dominated the grappling, and he was the winner on every media scorecard that was submitted to MMAdecisions.com. But for Sean O'Malley, despite all that backlash, his last fight against Aljamain Sterling, where he became the champion, washed all of that away. We had O'Malley that night because he was at a striking advantage, a speed advantage, and he has the power to stun anybody when he lands cleanly. Sure enough, he lands that unforgettable right hand while he's sliding back, puts Aljo down, the rest is history. Now on the other side, Chito Vera's also had a lot of success since that fight against O'Malley. He lost immediately after to Jose Aldo. Aldo was able to control him on the mat for big chunks of that fight, but he goes on a winning streak of his own after that, beating some of the toughest guys in the game, like a very tough Davey Grant, putting Frankie Edgar to sleep with a vicious front kick. He battered Rob Font. He turned off Dominic Cruz with a perfect head kick. He ends up dropping a 5-rounder to Corey Sandhagen, where he seemed like he just couldn't get enough going. Sandhagen froze Chito that night with his movement, with his pace. Vera looked almost confused and clearly a step behind that night. He course corrected in a big way last time out by throwing tons of volume at Pedro Munhoz. He ends up getting his hand raised and he looked like he was back to form. Now what can we pull from all of that? What did we learn from these fights since their first fight? For the champ, I think he can look at that fight with Sandhagen and Chito and see that's the blueprint to beat this guy. He can emulate that style because Sean O'Malley moves as well as anybody. He could frustrate Vera by staying on his bike, touching him up, getting back to that movement, and he's slippery in there, which is why he had so much success against Aljamain Sterling. Sterling had a huge grappling advantage, couldn't even close distance. So if Vera can't find him, he's going to get picked apart. Now for Chito, where I think he could pull the most confidence from is by knowing that he's more durable than the champ. Not only that, but he's way more battle tested. I love me some Sean O'Malley, but we can't ignore the fact that his run in the UFC has largely been against bottom of the barrel bantamweights. Terrion Ware, Andre Sukumta, who almost beat him, Jose Quinones, all of these guys had little to no success in the UFC and are no longer with the promotion. Eddie Wineland had no chin left and is now retired. Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, Raulian Paiva, all no longer with the UFC. Now when he has taken this step up in competition, he lost to Chito Vera, he had a no contest against Pedro Munhoz, realistically lost to Petr Yan. So to me, the performance that really stands out among all of them that we've seen from O'Malley in his UFC run is the fight against Aljamain Sterling. So with that said, it's hard for me to not see Marlon Vera winning the belt this week. With the kicks, the power in his hands, his chin, 5 rounds to work, a chance at UFC gold, to move from star to superstar, and to do it against a guy that you already beat and they're giving us plus money, come on son. And the last thing I'll say about this is he's the challenger, so from a system perspective, he's an instant bet here. If you don't know what I mean by that, there is a video on the channel, it's also in the description, make 40% more betting on UFC fights. It breaks down why you should be betting on the challenger when it comes to these title fights every time. And if you've been doing that this year, you're up, you're 2-0, but I think that Chito Vera wins this fight, not only because he's the challenger, but I think he's just going to keep chopping away at those legs. I think he's going to hurt O'Malley more than O'Malley's able to hurt him, and I think that Marlon Chito Vera puts him away sometime in the 3rd or 4th round. So give me Marlon Vera to win this fight by knockout and new. Next we have a fight between Dustin Poirier and Benoit Saint-Denis, a 5-round co-main event where these two are going to go to war. For Benoit Saint-Denis, he has been on fire. He was undefeated prior to coming to the UFC. He lost his debut at welterweight, and if I'm honest, I think that messed with my perception of him a little bit. We figured he would beat Stoltz and Miranda, but I thought that Bonfim was going to give him all kinds of trouble. Nope, not one bit. He was blasting Bonfim with body kicks right away, fought hard to get the fight to the ground, and ended up submitting him. And that's really the story of how Benoit Saint-Denis approaches the fight game. His pressure is absurd. He wastes no time letting those kicks go to the head, to the body. He backs guys up against the fence. He throws wide winging hooks that land with tons of power. He bullies guys in there, and he's great on the mat. And if he's able to get takedowns here, I think that he submits Dustin Poirier the same way we saw Khabib do it, the same way we saw Do Bronx do it. Now on the other side, Dustin Poirier is coming off of a knockout loss to Justin Gaethje. It was a perfect head kick, and we didn't know that it was going to end like that, but we did have Justin Gaethje by knockout that night because we knew that Justin Gaethje had undeniable power. They had 5 rounds to work, and Dustin Poirier's just been through so so many wars. He's been at this forever. Now he's 35 years old and he's had these ridiculous fights with Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, and after a while the body can really only take so much. So with that, I see Benoit Saint-Denis being very live for an early finish here. I could see him landing a big punch that puts the diamond down. He might just big brother him on the mat and choke him out. He's the younger guy, the fresher guy, he's taking less damage in competition, better grappler, physically stronger, and the cherry on top is that he's got all the momentum you could ask for. But I don't know. Something doesn't smell right. Many of the things that make Saint-Denis so dangerous could be the reasons why he loses this fight. First is the pace. There's no way that he can maintain the kind of pace he's been fighting at over 5 rounds. And think to yourself, how many times have you seen Dustin Poirier in round 5 still letting his hands go? The second thing is the pressure. Benoit Saint-Denis likes to get rolling downhill, but what happens when guys do that to Dustin Poirier? Calf kick. He could shut that shit down real quick. And the third and final piece is the power. Benoit Saint-Denis again likes to start winging hooks when he backs these guys up against the fence. And you'll notice when he's doing that, the hands are not up here. They start to come all the way down here. Chin goes forward, hands go down. It's nowhere near a sound defensive position. And we saw somebody like Thiago Moises landing hooks basically at will when they were in the pocket. He can land that strike that's a bit straighter, a bit more flush with that half inch of better placement that's needed to turn someone's brain off. So to me, the winner of this fight is going to be decided in the first 8 minutes or so. Either Benoit Saint-Denis is going to blow the doors off of Dustin Poirier and get him out of there, or Poirier is going to be able to keep the feet. Because if Dustin Poirier is still standing going into the 3rd round, I think it's a wrap. And this is his wheelhouse, man. Dustin Poirier is a legend, but there have been times where he's kind of failed to rise to the occasion a little bit. Let's be real. But this is not a main event spot. It's not for a title. This is his world. This is a hard spot to beat Dustin Poirier, and especially coming off of that knockout loss, he wants to change some things for sure. He wants to change the perception that people have of him right now, like, oh, maybe he's past it, because that's what MMA fans do. As soon as you lose, oh, you're washed. From what we've seen from Dustin Poirier throughout his entire career, I think it's criminal to count him out, and I'm not counting him out this week. I think that he drags Saint-Denis not into deep water, but into a murky Louisiana bayou, and he finishes him late. It's going to be like an episode of Swamp People, where there's a lot of action and then it ends in a flash. So give me the experience, give me the bounce back, give me the sharper striker, give me the diamond. Give me Dustin Poirier to win this fight by knockout. Next, we have a fight between Kevin Holland and Michael Page. I like the direction that the UFC is taking with MVP. At 36 years old, he's definitely not here for a long time, but he is here for a good time, so put him in there with a striker, especially one like Kevin Holland who knows the assignment. Kevin Holland could go in there, take him down, submit him. I fully believe that's possible, the same way he could have done to Wonder Boy, but he's not going to do that. He knows that's not what the UFC made this fight for. He's going to give the people what they want. For you to go out there and try to wrestle Michael Venom Page, especially if it works, that would be lame. So these two are going to strike. And for those of you that don't know who Michael Page is, Michael Venom Page that is, he's not somebody people want to strike with. And it's not because he's the best striker in the world or has the most punching power in the world or anything like that. It's because he has a style that is completely his own. It's a style you can't train for. It's a style that confuses people. You're not going to find somebody who's as loose, as willing to take risks as he is. Someone who will fly through the air with knees, punches, and kicks. His highlight reel is insane. And he's truly a Bellator legend, really an MMA legend for what he's done in the sport. But we are not in Kansas anymore, Michael. Kevin Holland's not going in there to get one check this week. Here he can lean on all the physical advantages that he has, more so than he could at middleweight. And I think the length is going to be a huge factor in this fight. And you'll notice by the graphic, he's not taller, he's not that much longer, but it's a difference compared to what Michael Venom Page is used to. You look at a lot of his run in Bellator, not all of these fights, but a lot of his run in Bellator, he is towering over guys. And even when he isn't the taller man, he's almost always the longer man, and now he's giving that up. I would also argue that at this stage in their career, Kevin Holland is the faster guy, and he could knock MVP out this week, but I doubt it. I think the antics from Page are going to rub off on Holland. I think they're going to be competing not only to win the fight, but to see who's the better showman. So I expect those high fives, the big smiles, some dancing, all the stuff you hate to see when you're watching two guys fight. But there are going to be fun moments when these guys let their hands go and decide to strike. I think Kevin Holland is going to have bigger moments. I think he's going to land heavier. He's going to win minutes. Just getting bigger reactions from Page when he lands versus when Page lands on him. So I expect him to win the minutes, win the rounds, win on the judges' scorecards. Give me Kevin Holland to win this fight by decision. Jackie D's been tested as of late, coming off of back-to-back split decision wins where he started his UFC career with 4 straight knockouts. Really shouldn't have been a split decision against Holland. I thought that Jack Della Maddalena won pretty cleanly, but Basil Hafez gave him everything he could handle. What I love about Jack Della Maddalena's game is that he's so smooth on the feet. His boxing is tight, it's clean. He does a great job of mixing up strikes to the body and upstairs. players. Most guys in the division are not going to be able to stand and trade with him. By the looks of it, the best path to victory to beat him is by taking him down. Basil Hafez was able to take him down and control him. Ramazan Ameev nearly finished him with a Darce choke early in the first round. And now you have to deal with Gilbert Burns, who has better jiu-jitsu than both of those guys, and he's got the edge in grappling in this fight if it hits the mat. And Durinho's a dog who can definitely create some problems for JDM this week. What I don't like for Burns, however, though, is that he's 10 years older at 37. He's coming off of an injury and a loss, and he eats jabs like they're Reese's Cups. Gilbert Burns has never seen a jab that he doesn't want to walk onto. And unfortunately for him, he's dealing with maybe the best jab in the division right now. So I expect Della Maddalena to look great in this fight. I think a style like Wonder Boy or Ian Gary type style might give him trouble. Someone with length and good footwork that's going to make him chase, but Gilbert Durinho Burns doesn't do that. He tends to stand pretty squarely in front of guys when he's not looking for takedowns, and he has power in his hand, so he gets away with it. Sometimes it works, but he's also been knocked down and knocked out several times in the UFC. Della Maddalena is very accurate. He stays busy, so I expect him to find that Burns chin all night until he finds the off switch. Give me the youth, give me the boxing to get it done here. Give me Della Maddalena to win by knockout. And real quick, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how the algorithm works. And if you want to go a step further, share this with somebody you know is going to be watching the fights this week. All great ways to support the channel, and I'm about to tell you something that I don't tell everybody. Engaging with the channel is good luck. I'm not going to tell you where I heard it from, but I heard it. Next, we have a fight between top-ranked bantamweights, and it's starting to feel like do or die for Petr Yan. It wasn't long ago when he was 14-1, just destroyed Jose Aldo, became the UFC bantamweight champion. But since then, he's gone 1-4, and a record that obviously doesn't tell the whole story. He has the DQ loss in a fight that he was dominating against Aljamain Sterling, with that knee heard round the world. Another loss was a split decision loss to Aljamain Sterling in a very close fight. He was robbed against Sean O'Malley again. He beat Corey Sandhagen in a great fight over 5 rounds. In his last fight, he was broken by Merab over 25 minutes, didn't even win a round. So it's been tough sledding for old Pete, let's be real. But as far as skill sets go, he's great. Great boxing, power in both hands, can fight in tight, moves very well. He can do everything. Rock solid chin on him. Never really has been rocked too badly in his career. Now, a lot of the same can be said for the best male fighter out of China so far, and that's Song Yadong. Despite being significantly younger than Petr Yan, he has been in the UFC longer, has more UFC wins, fewer losses, more finishes, higher finish rate. He can wrestle effectively if he needs to, which you would expect fighting out of Team Alpha Male, who has done a great job of developing high-level talent, championship-level talent in these lower weight divisions for years now. And the odds have Yan as a slight favorite here, and I'm having a hard time getting behind that. I feel like Yan is looking in the mirror this week at a younger, harder-hitting, and potentially faster version of himself. Petr Yan is historically a pretty slow starter, and in this 3-round fight, if he does anything that lets that first round slip, he all but confirms a decision loss here. So give me the youth, the power, the confidence, and the presence from Song Yadong. I don't think enough people talk about that. Like, Song Yadong's doing something to these guys in there. Give me him to win by decision. Next, we have a fight with Curtis Blaydes and Jailton Almeida. This fight here, this is what we've been waiting for. We're gonna learn a lot about Jailton Almeida this week. Jailton Almeida, the grappler, the light heavyweight who's smart enough to not cut weight so he can fight larger, slower men, and the fight fixer. And you might be thinking, whoa, Kunith, that's bold to say that he fixes these fights. What do you mean? What I mean is he spent roughly 6.5 hours in full mount against Derek Lewis and didn't finish the fight. Landed 38 significant strikes over 5 rounds, and let me tell you something. I don't know what the odds were for fight goes the distance, but I believe it was something absurd, like over plus 1,000. You don't think there was some insider trading going on there? You don't think he told his boys back home to throw some schmeckles on that juicy line? Come on. But in all seriousness, the guy's a monster. All of his UFC fights have basically been one-way traffic. No one's been able to stop the takedowns. He turns into the Hulk when it comes to his ground and pound, and he's got great submissions. If he's able to get Curtis Blaydes to the mat, I could see him picking up a submission here and doing it early. Now, obviously, Curtis Blaydes has made his money as a professional fighter with his wrestling. He's largely considered the best wrestler in heavyweight for the last couple of years. He has great cardio, excellent takedowns, and the boxing from Curtis Blaydes has improved tremendously. So much so that I give him the edge in the striking in this fight. For the short time we have seen Almeida on his feet in these fights, he's leaving more openings than a slice of Swiss cheese. And I actually do expect them to strike quite a bit in this fight because Curtis Blaydes knows full well that Jailton Almeida is shooting for a takedown right away. Curtis Blaydes been wrestling for damn near his whole life and can defend a simple double leg takedown even with Almeida's speed. So if Blaydes is maintaining those strong hips, keeping the feet standing, I think that he's also going to have trouble securing takedowns of his own. I don't think Jailton Almeida is an easy guy to take down at all. So I expect these guys to be striking for about 2 to 3 minutes in the first round before one of them goes down. Now we've only seen Curtis Blaydes lose to guys with serious all-time one-shot knockout power: Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, and Sergey Pavlovich. And obviously Almeida has power as well, but I don't think it's quite at that level. I think that Curtis Blaydes is going to let his hands go, stuff takedowns. I think he catches Almeida in the first round. So give me Curtis Razor Blaydes to win this fight by knockout. Next, we have a big old age gap here with the 25-year-old Maycee Barber looking to climb the ranks with another win, and this one over a 35-year-old Katlyn Chookagian. Big maiden name energy over here. And I once heard Katlyn Chookagian referred to as the moat around Valentina Shevchenko's belt. And it made sense because there was a time for a while where you had to get over Katlyn Chookagian to be able to at least have a meeting with Valentina. And she's been super solid, turning away contender after contender for years. And I don't know how she's doing it. She stays busy, moves well, but that's about it. She has no power to speak of. I've seen solar powered calculators with more power than Katlyn Chook. And now she has to deal with somebody who's younger, stronger, has more power in her hands, and is going to keep her foot on the gas from the opening bell all the way till the end. I see Maycee Barber throwing more punches, looking for takedowns. Maycee Barber should win here, and frankly, she should make it look easy. If she wants to clinch, she can. If she wants to strike at range, she'll have success doing that as well. Her only losses are to Roxanne Modafferi when she blew out her knee, and then she lost the fight after that, coming off of a long layoff to Alexa Grasso, who's the current champion. Since then, 5-fight winning streak, and she should extend that streak here. I think she's got her covered everywhere. Katlyn Chookagian has never been finished in the UFC, so I don't see Maycee Barber putting her away, but Katlyn Chookagian's also never finished a fight in the UFC, so I don't see Barber having to respect a whole lot of what's coming back. She's going to be more aggressive. She's going to win minutes, win rounds. I think that Maycee Barber wins this fight by decision. And to give you a sneak peek, we're probably going to have some Skrilla on her this week. If you want all of the official bets for the week, you can visit kunithmma.com, grab yourself a total access package that's going to give you the official betting article and all of the DFS stuff to come along with it. So that's your lineup optimizer, projections, data model, DFS strategy guide. It also comes with the community forum as well. All of that is linked in the description and in a pinned comment. Let's get back to the breakdown. Next, we have a fight between Mateusz Gamrot. He's fighting Rafael dos Anjos this week. This is the easiest parlay piece of the week. This card has tons of close fights on it, and you can argue both sides of them, but not for this one. The legend that is Rafael dos Anjos is getting wrestled to death here, and he's going to lose a decision to Mateusz Gamrot. I can tell you that right now. Gamrot pushes a crazy high pace, wrestles as well as anybody in the UFC, scrambles as well as anybody in the UFC. And he's not going to slow down one bit in this 3-round fight. The biggest concern I have for him is that Gamrot gets caught often. He's been dropped 4 times in the UFC, but I don't really worry about that for him this week because RDA, for as much power as he once had, he's past it. He still has good fight IQ. He's still in phenomenal shape. He can fight for as long as he wants. But the truth is, he's recorded 1 knockdown over the last 9 years. Now, at his age, he's not going to develop some new kind of power. On top of that, we've seen him struggle against good grapplers. Vicente Luque took him down a ton. Michael Chiesa bullied him. Usman, Covington, Habib all had success taking him down. And based on what we've seen from Mateusz Gamrot, I think he does the exact same here. He should out-wrestle RDA each round, look a lot faster during these scrambles, and as a result, win these rounds. I don't think he has the submission game to get RDA out of there, and I don't think that he's going to be able to have more success striking than Dos Anjos does, so I think this goes to the judges' scorecards. Give me Mateusz Gamrot to win by decision. Next, we have a fight between bantamweights Pedro Munhoz and Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips finally seeing some action. For one reason or another, it's been hard getting this guy in there, whether he's had an injury or his opponent's had, so it's hard to see him consistently fight, but it's March, he's fighting now, so this is a good sign. We might see him fight more in 2024, which is good because Kyler Phillips is entertaining and he looks like he has the talent to compete against some of the better fighters at bantamweight. He's got good long striking, those leg kicks he throws are deadly accurate, smooth footwork to set everything up as well, and he does his best work when he can get his grappling going, so he's not one-dimensional. It's going to be tough for him to get his grappling going in this fight against Pedro Munhoz because he's got very strong takedown defense. Pedro Munhoz is basically Triple H, hips, hands, and heart. So I expect most of this fight to be fought at range where both of these guys are striking. Phillips may be getting some cage control time, looking for takedowns, but most of the time these guys are going to be out in space, letting their strikes go. And Pedro Munhoz has been a ton of fun to watch because he has elite toughness, he chops guys down with those low kicks, and he likes to brawl. It's always a tough fight against Pedro Munhoz. He's never been finished finished, and I don't think that changes here, but I do see Pedro Munhoz taking another L on the judges' scorecards this week. Phillips is a great fight manager, a manager of distance, where the fight takes place, output. Even in his losses, they're split decisions, majority decisions, so nobody's running through him. And at Pedro's big age, I don't see him walking through anyone right now. So take the younger man with the better movement, the better striking defense as well to win these rounds, win the fight. Give me the Matrix, give me Phillips to win by decision. Next, we have a fight between Michel Pereira and Michal Oleksiejczuk. Michel versus Michal. If they worked together, they could come up with a full Michael. Michel Pereira is just a winner, and at his best, he's extremely tough to beat because he's an athletic freak. He's got great instincts for fighting. He's bouncy. He lands a lot of strikes. Everything's powerful, and he can wrestle. He really shook the gasser allegations from earlier in his UFC run, and there aren't really major holes in his game. He's also got a crazy amount of experience. You see 29 and 11 there, 40 fights into his career. He's only 30 years old. Although somebody in the comments will tell me that he's lying about his age, and if you told me he's lying about his age, I'd believe you. But that creates weird situations for his opponents because he does strange things. You can't point to fighters on the roster who are going to throw a wheel kick 1 second, a Superman punch the next, and then follow that with a blast double leg takedown. To me, that's his biggest strength, that unpredictability. You never really know what he's going to do next. On the other side, I love me some middleweight Michal because he has ridiculous power, sneaky speed, everything looks so long out of that southpaw stance as well. And I like when he gets matched up with other one-dimensional strikers because he is one of the better brawlers in the division, maybe in the UFC, but that's just it. He's one-dimensional. He's got really bad takedown defense, and Pereira is going to take full advantage of that in this fight. Most of his losses are by submission, and I could see Michel Pereira taking his back and getting a rear naked choke this week. He will look for submissions. He hasn't found a whole lot of success with them in the UFC, but this looks like his best matchup to do exactly that. I like that he's fighting at middleweight as well. I like it for both men because for Michal Oleksiejczuk, he shouldn't have been fighting at 205. Even at middleweight, he still's got that soft body. And for Pereira, it was the opposite, where at 170, it looked like he was just cutting too much weight and sacrificing his ability to perform to gain a size advantage that he'll still enjoy a bit of at this weight class. He still has the size, the skills, the speed to keep winning fights even up at 185, and not having to cut that additional 15 pounds, I think will give him the longevity that he's probably looking for. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. Getting 2 checks 6 times in a row is not half bad, and I think he adds to that this week by picking up his 7th win in a row. He's the more well-rounded fighter. Give me the better grappler here. I think Michel Pereira wins this fight by submission. Next, I guess we're gonna break down this fight, but I'm telling you now, it hasn't been canceled yet, but it's gonna get canceled because Felipe Lins is involved. Just give it a few days before he's medically not cleared to compete, and the fight will get canceled. I wish I could bet on the likelihood of this fight actually happening more than we could bet on the fight outcome itself. But if the fight does happen, I do lean Felipe Lins to get it done for 2 reasons. First is that at light heavyweight, he looks good. Coming into the UFC, he was built like Big Weld. That was because he was up at heavyweight, but he has since transformed his body, and the results have followed, 3-0 as a UFC light heavyweight. The second reason why I would lean Felipe Lins is because you can't trust Ion Cutelaba. The guy's got all the physical tools to win fights consistently, but the fight IQ of a kangaroo. The potential that he showed when he came into the UFC versus what his run has actually been like is crazy. He is 6-8-1 in the UFC, and 7 of those 8 losses have been inside the distance. He has tons of power, decent wrestling, he's super athletic, but he loses to guys who make better decisions than him. And that's the thing with somebody like Felipe Lins, because he's a fighter who wins fights because he makes better decisions than his opponents, more so than what he can do athletically. Felipe Lins you could think of as like a white slot receiver. He runs a 4.640, but he's always open. And that's because he makes good choices. He has high positional awareness as well. I expect Felipe Lins to use his movement to extend Cutelaba beyond the first round. I see him stuffing takedowns, possibly looking for takedowns of his own, but where I see him having a lot of success here is in the clinch when he's landing his knees. To the body, possibly to the head. I think knees in the clinch could play a big role in this fight. Again, all that matters is that Felipe Lins actually shows up. I'm telling you now, that's not going to happen, so however long this took for you to watch this bit about Felipe Lins will be a waste of your life. But I will take him to win this fight, and it's against Ion Cutelaba, so it's inside the distance. So give me Felipe Lins to win this fight by knockout. Next, we have a fight between Robelis Despain and Josh Parisian. Robelis Despain is making his UFC debut. I didn't know who he was. I don't know if that makes me a casual, but I looked him up to see what's going on with this guy, and I see he's 6'7". Okay. Hold up. He's going to have the longest reach in UFC history. Okay. Undefeated at 4-0. All right, well, let's see what the fights look like. I checked the record, and his last 3 fights have ended in 12 seconds, 3 seconds, and 4 seconds. I thought, no. It takes these guys 3 seconds to get to the center of the octagon, let alone to land a strike and win the fight. So I thought thought something bogus was going on. So I look for the fights, I find the fights, and it's real. But this dude's going out there, he's taking 2 steps to get to the center of the octagon, landing 1 or 2 strikes, and guys are just slumping over. It's like something I've never seen before. Now, albeit that he's fighting guys who have never fought before, and they don't seem to fight since they fight him either. So I don't know what's going on. So the record that he has doesn't really mean anything, but it's clear that he has a ton of power. He's got that Olympic Taekwondo background, and he's matched up against somebody who's slow, practically a stationary target in Josh Parisian. So I expect him to make good on his UFC debut. I think the line is pretty wide, but when you watch this guy fight and you see what he looks like for somebody at his weight, at his height, it's ridiculous. I think he goes out there and knocks out Josh Parisian in the first minute or 2 of this fight. I think that if he fights somebody with strong wrestling, he is screwed. I think if he fights a good striker in the division with enough footwork that's going to extend him beyond 1 round, he's also going to lose. But Josh Parisian's not going to be doing that. He offers a very winnable fight and a very hittable target for Dustin this week, so I see him getting it done in 1 early in the first round. Give me Robelis Dustin to win this fight by knockout. Next we have CJ Vergara. He's fighting Asu Almabayev this week. Our guy CJ. He's done right by us a few times now. He hit as an underdog against Clayton Rodriguez. He took care of business after a dicey start against Daniel Lacerda. Rest in peace, Daniel Lacerda. What is dead may never die. And he just outworked Vinicius Salvador in his last fight. He's got a very blue collar approach to these fights where he brings toughness, volume, there's no quit in this guy. Against guys that might fade as the fight goes on, CJ Vergara is going to present all types of problems. Now on the other side, Almabayev, fighting out of Kazakhstan, cooked Ode Osborne in his UFC debut. He was able to do that with his wrestling. He looked very strong. He shot for takedowns. Granted, he was a little far away and some of these shots were naked. He didn't really set them up. So higher level guys are going to see that coming and be able to stuff these takedowns, but even Ode looked surprised by it. He looked surprised by the speed of the entry and how deep he was able to get on a single leg despite being so far away when he shot. Another thing that I liked is that he got Ode Osborne down in the center of the octagon, which is not something you see often. It's like a lost art in MMA. He tried a choke at the end of the first round. Osborne survived, almost kind of saved by the bell. At the start of round 2, Almabayev shoots again, gets in deep, but he can't finish the takedown. But it's interesting because you see that because he was able to get the takedown early in the fight, even when he didn't finish the takedown later, he still had Ode Osborne thinking about it. So later in the fight, he fakes a level change, comes over the top with a right hand. So really high level stuff out of him. Ultimately, he was able to get another takedown, get to the back, sink in a choke, and I see him doing all of that to our guy CJ Vergara this week. CJ's been taken down in 4 out of 5 UFC fights. He doesn't really have that one-shot power, or even that power to drop somebody like Almabayev, so I don't think he'll be able to get the respect to keep him off of him. I see Asu Almabayev hunting for these single legs the entire fight, chain wrestling until he gets it to the mat, attempting submissions every round until he finds the one that he needs. And I think that he finds one, closes the show. Give me Asu Almabayev to win this fight by submission. And the next fight that we'll look at is against Joanne Wood, formerly Joanne Calderwood, against Marina Moroz. I'm seeing right now Marina Moroz sitting around minus 200 at some places. What the hell are you talking about? Yes, it's a rematch. Yes, Moroz won the first fight 9 years ago. It was by armbar, and she is younger, but the line seems too wide. Joanne Wood's only been losing to champions and title contenders for the last several years, and she has a fight style that can keep this one very competitive. Moroz is priced as if she's going to dominate this fight or finish this fight, and I don't see either of those things happening. I think their wrestling is on par with one another. Moroz has worse takedown defense, and on top of that, Joanne Wood throws more, lands more, is more accurate. Marina Moroz is rocking a negative striking differential. Moroz is a grinder. Could I see her outworking Wood and maybe getting the nod from the judges in these rounds? Possible. The rounds are going to be close, but because I think the fight's going to be close, I think there's a lot of value on the 38-year-old JoJo Wood. And if you want to have some action on this fight, I think she's the better spot. I also think Moroz is getting a lot of love from the odds makers as it is. She was a minus 200 favorite against Jennifer Maia and lost cleanly. She was somehow even money last time out against Karine Silva, was finished in the first round. So I think the line is a bit off. To me, I think this should be a pick'em because I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, maybe a split decision. With that, I'll take a shot on the dog. I'll take Joanne Wood to get it done this week by decision. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I'll see you later in the week for final picks. Let's go.